As an organization, we've partnered with ABC Innovations in order to help build a bridge between the US, the continent of Africa, and other places in the world directly to Bulgaria to make the process a little bit more seamless and easier. So we're always happy to work with both private sector, NGOs, and governments to help them build that trade bridge. So I want to start with thanking our moderator, Krasi, who will take the rest of this lead and identify these speakers, provide a little bit of a highlight on who they are and their backgrounds, and lead us through this process and this conversation. Again, thank you all for joining us. We have a really great lineup of speakers that you'll see. So thank you to all our speakers for taking your really busy schedule and getting on this call with us, both in the US. I mean, I know some of you guys are in the US, others, most of you are in Bulgaria. And thank you to Andre who's in Geneva. Lastly, this conversation is going to continue beyond this 2-hour webinar. We want to continue to build this trade relationship between institutions that are both in the US and those who are on this call, because I know we also have audience members from all over the world. I definitely want to thank a few audience members that I see already on, those who've joined from various governments in Kenya, in the US. I see other members of government from Ghana as well. So thank you guys for learning more about Bulgaria. Thank you for joining this call. I see a few university leaders. Thank you guys for getting on this call as well. So I want to thank everyone who's on this call. This is a really great time and a really great opportunity. We're doing everything via Zoom because that is today. So thank you all again. So I'll go ahead and introduce Professor Krasi, who is at Northeastern University, but he's also a leader in all areas of manufacturing. He's also someone who has taken on this lead by really trying to build a relationship between the US and Bulgaria. So I'll let Krasi introduce himself a little bit more and start the conversation. So thank you all once more.
Thank you, Helen. This very event is an evidence how much the world is changing. It was supposed to happen in mid-April in Washington, DC, and here we are, thanks to Helen and to F3, having all these events, presenting different countries and exploring different opportunities. You know, the world is changing. We are in the midst of the fourth industrial revolution, revolution of sensors, data, analytics, connectivity, and the whole paradigm of this classical model of getting education, applying the knowledge for decades ahead, growing careers, happily retiring one day, is being replaced by a new one. It's a paradigm of continued learning, of improvement, knowledge applications, relearning, and of course, we want to come to the last point, which was the happy retirement as well, right? So we live right now in as you know, in challenging times of COVID-19. Just 6 months ago, who could have imagined that we'll have these severe restrictions, we'll have travel limitations, we'll have business challenges, we'll have a global supply chain restructuring. But this crisis, as all of the crises, also creates opportunities. And these are opportunities to reassess where we are, to realign, and opportunities to grow. As you know, each business journey starts with knowledge. It starts with knowledge about markets, knowledge about opportunities, and knowledge about directions. So we are gathered here today to share with you knowledge about Bulgaria, about the exciting business opportunities, about all that exists in this small country, which could become a key entry for US businesses to European Union, to Eastern Europe, to Middle East, and to Africa. For that reason, we had assembled a great panel of experts, and they're here to share their experience and to open the door for new opportunities. So today's event will be structured in 3 parts. First, we will introduce 2 panelists, Ivo Konstantinov and Stamen Yanev, who will discuss the government of Bulgaria, the business overview of Bulgaria as a country and Bulgaria's opportunity for you. Then we'll move to the next section, which is sector highlights, where we'll present healthcare, R&D innovations, and IT. And the third section, we will introduce two speakers, Andrei Novakov and Borislav Slavchuk, who will present to you the EU opportunities through Bulgaria. With this quick introduction, I would like to move to the first speaker, Ivo Konstantinov. I have known Ivo Konstantinov for about 7 or 8 years, and he is passionate, he is knowledgeable, and he is absolutely committed to his mission as trade attaché and advisor at the Bulgarian embassy in Washington. I have seen him in action so many times, and I have to say, I have always been impressed. Without saying too much, here is Ivo Konstantinov.
Thank you, Krasi. I promise you I'm blushing if your computer resolutions are not good enough to see that, but I am. I am the Commercial and Trade Officer at the Bulgarian Embassy in Washington, D.C., covering a very wide area of economic affairs between the United States and Bulgaria, and a bit of a veteran in the commercial and trade community, representatives community in Washington, D.C. I've learned that for the U.S. businesses, the way of communicating is to be down-to-earth pragmatic, so I'll be very brief, and I'll speak only things that really practically matter, whom I really know, clearly know are important to American companies, and answer the question why Bulgaria and what are our differentials. The proverbial elevator pitch is what I'm going to try to do here, and really give you tools where to start from afterwards. Why Bulgaria is important potentially to the US, especially post-COVID, is a no-brainer, because for most US businesses, even small and medium-sized companies who have been satisfied with the domestic market, post-COVID, they would definitely need expansion of their operations and expansion of their markets. If we assume that in some areas like automotive, boutique niche services, luxury goods, non-food, fast-moving consumer products, the markets will shrink in the near term by 20 to 30%, unfortunately. That means that survival means expanding your area of operation. And Europe is the next closest ally, the next friendliest place to go. And I will try to make the point in the next 4 minutes that Bulgaria is probably one of the best, if not the best, easiest, and certainly lowest cost gateway to the entire Europe. But we're not talking about Europe here. The elevator pitch, when they give me only 1 minute, I do is usually this. We are culturally, linguistically, very close to the former Soviet realm in terms of understanding language. Most of us still speak Russian, although English is becoming the second language in the country. We are in very close proximity to the Middle East and Central Asia, which is great. It's an asset for business, but politically and business and legally, we are part of the European Union and Europe. We are as European as they come. But being in such a location right in the middle between 3 continents is an asset for business. Next slide, please, Helen. The next speaker will be delving in more details on the Bulgaria's advantages. I would only want to highlight a few that are important to Americans. I'm certain from my experience that are. Apart from the lowest cost of expanding, which is sometimes not the most important factor for big corporations, but it's very important for small and medium-sized American companies when they decide where to expand, and the low taxes, which is good news to most companies. Actually, we have a very good availability of talent because, as I said, most of us speak Russian. English is a mandatory language training now in all schools. My niece studies it in kindergarten, which is common. And still 1.5 million of us speak Turkish because of their background. And most people from the pre-millennial generations also speak Russian. And Russian and Bulgarian are almost mutually intelligible. So you have a multilingual population, which is very tech savvy. We started manufacturing personal computers in the late 70s in Bulgaria. We started coding in the early 80s. That is now we're in a second, sometimes third generation of professional coders. And with all the schools and the educational system producing them, and they are there, they're available. We're VMware's and Hewlett Packard's European production and development bases, for example. So it's a good place to expand also your R&D and product development operations from the engineering availability standpoint. And what the next speakers would be delving even more is the availability of European grants and funds for scientific research, R&D, and commercialization. I'm only going to say that if you come to Bulgaria and use European funds, this will favorably affect your bottom line for your R&D and new product development. And in some areas like carbon capture and sequestration, for example, electrical vehicles and others, Europe is more committed than the United States and is allocating more resources than the United States. So if you want to start businesses that are very green, probably Europe will be even a more logical step to expand and sell than the United States in terms of a political commitment to those. That's very important to highlight. And the last bullet point is the excess of electricity production. We are a electricity powerhouse of Central and Eastern Europe. We, in some periods of the year, produce 3 times more electricity than we need. And we export the rest of it. We have nuclear, clean coal, hydro, and renewables, and a healthy mix ratio. We're probably going to convert nuclear to gas. Natural gas consumption is going to grow probably by 3 times, 300% in the next 5 years, especially after the conversion of the coal power plants to natural gas, which is great business for energy, LNG containerization, everything related to transit of energy, electricity swap deals, LNG for transportation, and all of the above will be 2-digit growing industries in the next years. But if you want to do data centers, which is energy gas link, Bulgaria is the place. And we will have special offers for you if you decide to do so. Next slide, Helen. This is the domain of the next speaker, I call him the Minister of Investment, who will follow. I only want to highlight that we have a special law in Bulgaria treating foreign investors favorably with a slew of toolbox instruments that we present for them to make their market entry easier in Europe. The Investment Promotion Act. Next slide, please. This is something I wanted to highlight briefly, especially if an American company wants to go to markets that the US doesn't know as well, and in some of these places doesn't feel comfortable expanding directly. We know how to deal with these people. We know how to sell to them. We know how to source from them. We are very well connected in the transportation flows to them. And you can come to Europe, to Bulgaria, be protected by a European rule of law environment, yet expand in all of these markets, from Afghanistan to Turkey to Central Asia and the Middle East. Bulgaria is in close proximity. We are 4 hours drive from Istanbul. And yet we are in Europe, and you are in a European environment. So that's the best of 3 possible worlds. There's only, there's one more thing I wanted to add. You know, China's ambitious expansion activities in making inroads into the European markets. It's aggregated into one common Chinese government policy called One Belt, One Road. Bulgaria is one of the entry points, the 3 main entry points of One Belt, One Road of China into Europe. The Chinese-European trade and investment relationship that's going to reach about $1.5 trillion in the next couple of years will become the 2nd largest trade relationship in the world after the transatlantic relationship between Europe and the United States, which is the biggest, which means that an American company based in Bulgaria can tap into that cash flow and that trade relation. you can come and drink from this fire hose when you are in Bulgaria, because we are on the receiving end of Chinese investment in Europe. We don't drink that Kool-Aid very liberally. We are cautious with Chinese investment, but at the same time, we work with them, we know how to. And under European Union regulation and law, we actually benefit from that. Next slide, Helen. This is what we trade in with the United States. It's about 1.2 billion of exports, $350 million of imports from the US, about 1.5 billion dollars expected to trade with America this year. It's overwhelmingly in favor of Bulgaria in terms of the trade surplus in our favor. I hope the president won't hear this, but we also exchange as much data flows in terms of services. That's mostly R&D, BPO, coding, and business processes and development for the technology sector in the United States. And on the Bulgarian side, it's mostly financial services that we buy from American companies. So it's interesting that the trading in services is as big as the trading in goods. We have an additional $1 billion unaccounted easily from remittances from the huge 500,000 strong Bulgarian community in the United States, whose claim is we're the biggest foreign investor in Bulgaria, the Bulgarian community in America. But there's something to that. They are a huge resource for us that we tap into. And also the 110,000 American tourists that come to Bulgaria annually, usually from the river cruise, but not exclusively. And the foreign direct investment. The United States is the 5th largest investor in Bulgaria. So that's a lot to say. More or less, there's $3 billion of cash flow flowing annually between the two countries. Next slide, Helen. I know that a lot of you will be interested in what can be traded and what can be invested. And I've generated my 7-year-long experience in the United States, having visited 34 states, from San Diego, California to Burlington, Vermont, from Seattle and Bellingham, Washington to Key West, Florida. This is what I've summarized. We want to sell specialty food and bicycles to the United States, everything copper related. We have a very serious competitive advantages in those areas. We haven't leveraged them fully yet. And furniture is among those, but essential oils is also something that we want to develop. What we are looking to source from the US are things that the United States is traditionally good at in the raw material sector, like energy, peanuts, soybeans, of course, LNG, agricultural machinery, which we are sometimes more aggressive sourcing than the Americans are aggressive in trying to sell to us, and everything that is related to the circular economy, like non-processed used lubricants and car batteries, where Bulgaria is a European leader in the recycling and circular economy of those. In the investment area, we are very, very good location for Americans investing and expanding their operations into the technology sector. I would say automotive, car assembly and automotive components, clinical trials, where we are a European hub for those at a lower cost with a very favorable gene pool for the clinical trials. Intermodal transportation, the transportation connections between Asia and Europe mostly flow through Bulgaria. The second largest border crossing for cargo in the world is Bulgaria. The largest is on the US-Mexican border. The second largest worldwide is Bulgaria, Turkey. And you can come and tap into that cash flow as well, offering services. Think JB Hunt, think Travel Centers of America, TA Petro, Pilot, think truck stops. We don't have motels. roadside truck stops are yet to develop in Europe, and that's an opportunity of investment. My number one priority to reach out to in the United States, though, is the data centers and data storage. We are an extremely good place to do that. We have an optic cable under the Black Sea coast from Bulgaria into Central Asia. And we are connected with the second fastest internet speed in Europe, sixth fastest worldwide. Very good place to exchange big data. Next slide, please. We have two offices we covered the US from. We divided the United States with my colleague, Ljubka Kachakova, based in LA. She's with us now. I'm very proud of her. She's based in Los Angeles and covers all states west of the Rockies. I cover the Midwest, the South, and the Atlantic East Coast. So we are at your disposal. We are a very small team, unfortunately, but fortunately, we have very, very good freedom and flexibility to assist in all of your endeavors and interest in Bulgaria, and we remain available. Thank you, Helen, for setting this up for us.
Thank you. I think after each speaker, we'll have time for one or two quick questions, and I have something very quickly here for Ivo. Ivo, you have been in this business for a long time. It's not just the 7 years since you came to Washington, D.C., of course. How would you estimate the changes in the Bulgarian business culture and bringing it more up to the level of US and Western Europe?
Mm-hmm.
The changes you see the most significant?
That's a great question. Sometimes when you're trying to catch up, actually you acquire a more advanced, the most recent technologies and skill sets, which is what happened in Bulgaria. Our millennials came at the edge, at the top of the world tech development, simply because in the 90s, after the fall of communism, we were in a catching up mode. You have heard the proverbial example of how in Africa, they went from no communications whatsoever to 4G and 5G, simply because you skip one or two natural developments in the developed world. We acquired the most recent skill sets in the technology center with our catching up mode and the ambition of the young Bulgarians to form and shape a business class, created a very healthy European, very technology savvy, English speaking community, very cosmopolitan, that will surprise you when you visit Bulgaria.
Thank you very much. I don't think, I mean, we'll have obviously more to discuss on the subject, but after going through all the speakers and all presentations, we have a chunk of time, we'll do that. So with this, I would like to introduce our next speaker, Stamen Yanev. Stamen is the CEO of Invest Bulgaria Agency. By education, he is attorney at law and he specializes in mergers and acquisitions. He has also extensive educational background, degree from Sofia University with cum laude. Then he specialized in Cambridge, in Netherlands, in University College of London, and also in Italy. So with this introduction, Stamen, it's you.
Thank you very much, Krasi. Just before moving to our presentation, we have agreed to show you how you could see Bulgaria. Actually, we have prepared a video which is basically it was intended to be our advertisement of Bulgaria. However, currently it is like viral in our social media because everyone in Bulgaria and Bulgarians outside of Bulgaria are very proud of what we did and what we are doing currently for the last years in Bulgaria. So probably this would be a good platform to have the next discussions.
For every beginning, there is a place to live, a place to grow, a place to move to, and a place to move you. Today, you're taking the first step to that place. A place which connects you to the Middle East and Russia without ever leaving the European Union. A place of great connections where the internet is amongst the 10 fastest in the world. Everything moves fast in this place. A booming economy with low operating costs and a corporate tax of just 10%. A smart place with smart people. People who top the global charts in mathematics and rank 3rd in the world in IT specialists per capita. People who communicate with the world. 1 in 2 speaks at least 1 foreign language. This place is a vibrant global software development hub, an industry growing by 30% year on year. The automotive sector is also driving in the fast lane, helping 90% of the European cars move. And there's more. More electrical manufacturing, more mechatronics, more mechanical engineering, electronics, innovations. More is moving forward in this place. Until it pauses. Just for a moment. And then you dive into 14 centuries of cultural heritage. You are dazzled by the stunning natural beauty and never get tired of its diversity throughout its 4 seasons. You fall in love with this place of abundance, where half of the land is arable, fertile, clean, and rich in mineral water. So move forward and be moved by Bulgaria. Take the first step and let us welcome you with strong institutional support and attractive business incentives. Invest in Bulgaria. Move to be moved.
That's basically the start. And I will start that Invest Bulgaria agency is government agency, which has 2 main activities to support, to promote, first of all, Bulgaria's investment destination, and second, to support people when they come here in Bulgaria on the ground. So we provide a lot of services. First, of course, to inform the potential investors, then to show them potential locations where they could settle in. Also, we're fixing a potential financial model by providing information what they could receive as funding, also state aid and government support. Next slide, please. If it seems, are you able to see the slide, everyone, or because I'm seeing just the partial?
It's zooming too much. Helen, could you go to presentation mode on the PowerPoint?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Okay, it was in presentation mode, so can you see it again?
Yeah, have to zoom out.
I think because yours are presenters,
yeah,
it's a little different.
Zoom out somehow. All right, Probably something to add on our credit ratings from the main credit rating agencies. Moody's, Standard and Poor's have shown that we have a positive, stable to growing valuation of the country. You could see B 2As. So definitely this brings us to the family of the countries with stable economies, and it was shown for the last years that we have grown confidently 3 to 4% year on year. So obviously a good environment for potential investors. Next slide. And probably if it is possible to zoom out a little bit, it was mentioned that Bulgaria is, I wouldn't say that we have, we are like a low-cost destination, but rather that the operational costs are very reasonable. I would say that the big sometimes investment is in the human resources, but statistically it is shown that we have the lowest operational costs. However, from the perspective of the payments to people, I would say that they are reasonable. If you would like to find talented people, of course, they have their price. Otherwise, statistically, the minimum wage is around 350 US dollars. So this is, you know, the minimum wage. However, it was mentioned that gas, electricity is one of the lowest in Europe. And on this basis, when you have also a very simple tax system of 10% corporate taxation, you can form a very good business model for investment in Bulgaria. Next slide. Of course, we were hit by this unexpected situation with COVID-19, and we are predicting small growth for 2020. If you have heard yesterday, and probably my friend and colleague Mr. Novakov will speak about what Europe has adopted as a decision yesterday. Huge development in the common policy of Europe, and a good opportunity to take public debt commonly as European Union, and this money to be invested in the especially in the small and medium enterprises, which were heavily hit by this crisis. Next slide. I mentioned that we have very simple tax system, flat taxation rate of 10%, personal and corporate. So with a simple move and investing in Bulgaria, you could save between 5 and 10% of your profit to be used for something else. So, and it was mentioned, Bulgaria has a strategic location. The whole European Union is open through Bulgaria. And obviously you could also have a very good business model by investing in Bulgaria. Next slide. This is the automotive sector, but the figures are on the next slide, please. We, for the last 5 years, we are experiencing tremendous growth of the automotive sector. More than 80% of the cars in Europe are using parts which are manufactured in Bulgaria. We have around 10% of our GDP comes from the automotive segment. From our perspective, we consider that this is a huge potential for expansion. We're speaking with a couple of car manufacturers, so probably our next step is to start manufacturing cars, and especially the electrical vehicles, which are the future. And considering that more than 50% of the electrical vehicles are software, and this is a good opportunity to ask for the next slide, which is basically next is considering the IT segment. So we are proud to say that IT segment is one of the hot segments of our economy. Next slide, please, where you could see that a lot of students are among the top students in IT and mathematics. So, and this segment is growing very quickly. Year on year, we are talking around 30%. So, Bulgaria is obviously one of the IT hubs in Europe. So, very promising segment, and you should consider using Bulgaria as a platform for serving clients, or doing some BPO services, or just developing. And I was mentioning that the talented people have their price. If you, however, a good IT specialist could be found for twice lower salary here in Bulgaria compared to Germany, France, or some of the popular countries in Europe. Next slide.
And if I may interfere for a second, Stamen, I think we will be going into details in the next segment when we'll discuss.
Yeah, so I'll jump on the incentives. Basically, the idea is that if you invest in Bulgaria, you could receive the government incentives. They are on a couple of slides ahead.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that maybe we can come back to these few slides once we get into the second half of the
Just
webinar?
finalize, when you have an investment which is certified by the Bulgarian government, this means that the government supports this investment, and you could receive the government incentives in 3 main groups. That's basically fast-track administrative procedures, possibility to purchase state or municipal land without tender procedures, and of course financial support in the form of paying back the cost for the training programs, paying back the cost for the social security of the new workers, and paying back the cost for the development of the public infrastructure. So that's basically, in a nutshell, the opportunities that we could provide to foreign investors here in Bulgaria.
Thank you very much. This was very nice. Apologies for technical difficulties. I think maybe we can leave the questions for the discussion section of this webinar, so we could pretty much stay on schedule. Is it okay with you, Stan?
Yeah, I'm here with you.
Excellent, thank you so much. I think at this moment we'll move to sector highlights. And the first speaker I would like to introduce is the president of the Technical University of Sofia, Professor Ivan Kralov. Professor Kralov, what I liked very much about your introduction is that you started with the word, I am engineer. And I think for all of us who come from this field of engineering, this is something we are really proud of. Professor Kralov is the head of the biggest technical university of Bulgaria. He was vice president before taking the position, and he had authored over 130 scientific papers, 11 books. He has several patents, and he is leading one organization which is very dynamic organization which leads research and development in many areas in the country. So with this, Ivan, please take it from here.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. It's my great pleasure to share with you some research and innovation topics on our university. Technical University is the biggest university in Bulgaria, and it has a very wide expertise in all technical areas except the shipbuilding and civil engineering, because there are specific universities in our country in these areas. 75 years our university states the educational and research standards in our country and in the region, and we are proud that when the investors came in Bulgaria, one of the first steps is our university. They ask and they verify that if they invest, we are able to prepare enough qualified young peoples, and not only young people, but this is very important for their steps. So I have to share here with you some of the main data about our university, and also some of the main research topics in our university. More than 11,000 students now are in our university, and about 300 PhD students. We have the biggest accreditation rate from National Accreditation Agency. It's 9.56 from grade of 10. And we have contracts with more than 90 foreign universities. Please, next slide. Also, we have contracts and contribution with many foreign companies, research companies, and also we have a very strong relation with the industry. Go up, please, with the presentation. Down. Yeah, some specific data about our university. And next step is the research and development. We have few strong divisions of research. This is the virtual engineering, mechatronics, clean technologies. Also, we are good in the area of cybersecurity, of renewable energy sources. And this is the reason we have more than 65 master specialties, degree specialties, and more than 50 doctor's degree specialties. We are proud of our foreign language faculties. We have education in English, German, and French education. The students which are in these faculties, they study the international accredited programs, and they get diplomas which are verified by the countries like Great Britain, France, German, and of course all they are valid in all over the Europe. Please, next slide. This gives us the opportunity to have a strong relation with the international companies and international research, and this strong connection with the international companies gives us the opportunity to have a lot of international projects and operative programs. And please, next slide. You can see some of the facts, our key research areas. I have stated virtual engineering, digital technologies, and now there are some of our Horizon 2020 projects. We are not the leading these projects, but we are a very successful participants, and the results are directly implemented in the business. So this gives us the proud we are a real partner of the business and the industry. And maybe one of the last points I want to say some words about unique framework we have. Each year more than 30 scientific forums are organized or co-organized by our research teams under the so-called Days of the Science of the Technical University of Sofia. The wide expertise, the presence of many international specialists, the presence of many sponsors from industry states that this is a real place for transfer of knowledge, of technologies from academia, from the science to the business industry and regions. Of course, you can see some of our international partners, but also it's very important, and nowadays we are building some of centers of excellence and centers of competence, and the idea is to build a very modern infrastructure and also to educate and to qualify young peoples, young researchers to work with this modern equipment, and later on the base of projects to implement this research and these innovation results with the business in the industry. Of course, I could answer to more questions later. I think this is the main points for our university, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Ivan. I just wanted to share some experience how Technical University of Sofia has changed over the years. When I last visited the university was last summer, and I met with Professor Georgi Todorov, who demonstrated to me one of the latest equipments and the latest interactions with the medical community. And what do you think they did? They were actually working with Pirogov, one of the biggest hospitals, and patients who have skull damages, they could the hospital will scan their heads. They will provide 3D models. Technical University will get these 3D images, and they will machine or 3D print a total replacement of broken pieces of the skull and directly replace them on the patient instead of using the old classical methods. The reason I'm saying this is because I was impressed how the Technical University responded to the latest technologies, and this is something which I think they brought from Denmark, and how they engaged the Bulgarian industry and how capable I believe they are to engage other companies and industries coming from abroad. So
yeah, thank you. Thank you, but nowadays I could add that only for 2 weeks, this team of Professor Todorov has designed the product and the technology, and nowadays we produce, our companies produce a lot of pieces for industry, healthcare in the first step of COVID healthcare, and the last product is glasses.
and here
Yeah,
they are.
here are the glasses, and this was designed and produced with the technology only in the period of 2 weeks, fully machined serial production. This is another example, very good example for our partnership with the industry, with the business. So,
And by the way, I just received this by FedEx yesterday. So this polycarbonate, as I understand, was machined by the factory, by Volkswagen factory in Kırjali.
yeah.
Now these are the goggles which the Technical University produces and supplies the German market. We hope to bring this to United States as well. I think this is a very interesting discussion, and obviously there are great capabilities, and there is a lot that we could do together with the technical universities, with other companies, with ABC Innovations.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I think we can move forward with our next presenter. It's my pleasure to introduce Jordan Iliev. He's a senior consultant at DHI Healthcare Cluster in Bulgaria. He's co-founder and CEO of MySynergy. Obviously, he has a lot of experience in e-health security, where he's expert in healthcare IT services, and a lot of areas which, as we discussed earlier, could bring opportunities for other businesses and companies coming from the United States and from other countries, and also they could share and bring expertise overseas. So with this, Jordan, please go ahead.
Thank you for this kind introduction. I could say that I take myself as an evangelist in the digital healthcare, and this is the reason why, because I truly believe in what I'm doing, and I think that my work and what I do for a living is my hobby. And one of my mission actually is to involve the others in this journey and make them believe that everything is possible, and a lot of diseases currently nowadays can be cured. Helen, can we go with the presentation? So, as Professor Macho said, I'm currently presenting the Digital Health and Innovation Cluster, in which I'm a consultant. So the cluster, the story with the cluster is back in 2018, during the Bulgarian presidency of the European Union, Roberto Viola, who was Director General at DG Connect, he said that we are truly trying to set a new environment. The new goal of Europe is a data-driven healthcare system. This is a completely different vision from what we were talking about in the past. And then a little bit after, he continued and said that data-driven healthcare should not be some state-controlled enterprise, but rather an ecosystem that is open for private entrepreneurs who provide the tool that create value out advanced technologies and data resources. So based on this saying of Roberto Viola, we came into the idea to create the digital health and innovation cluster and become the organization that accumulate all the different companies, organizations, non-government organizations, and government organizations into one to create the ecosystem. Can we go with the next slide, please? So the vision of the cluster is to create a data-driven healthcare to boost sustainability and efficiency in the system. The last 2 decades in Bulgaria, we went through a lot of projects doing for e-health. So overall, the result is not very successful. We are still in process of creating this healthcare national system. So we believe that at one point we will be this organization that will create this data-driven healthcare. Our mission, as I already said, is to develop an ecosystem in healthcare that is open for private entrepreneurs and organizations that will be able to provide the tools and create value, which impact out the vast technological and data resources. Can we go with the next slide, please? Thank you. So the 3 strategic priorities that we have in the cluster, number 1 is to be a recognition on a national level by our government and become institutional tool for policy making. This means that when administrative or legal need have arisen, we want to position the cluster as a maybe not a decision maker, but as a part of the decision making process, as an organization which the government should hear. The second one is building partnerships and business relationship network. And this is true for no matter whether our companies are from Bulgaria or from outside Bulgaria. But to be more specific, building partnership and business relationship network it's this ecosystem that the members of the clusters are part of. Because when a new member comes, you have a very fast connection and a shortcut to all the people and all the management of these companies, which gives you a lot of opportunities for direct marketing, for direct business, peerings, and another possibilities for business development. And the third one, strategic priority that we have currently, is building sustainable international cooperation and communication channels. And that's the reason why currently we are on this webinar today. There are a lot of opportunities with the United States and Bulgaria because of already some of our previous speakers highlighted some of the best things that can happen in Bulgaria, like the internet, top 10 in the world, like big data, like the new Horizon Europe 21-27 program that has a lot of projects. You know that most of these projects in healthcare specifically, United States universities are eligible to be part of. So there are a lot of opportunities to invest in Bulgaria and create great ideas and great projects live. Can we go with the next slide? So basically some of the services that we are currently providing via the cluster, one, it's access to actionable information and consulting, like the one we're doing. Actionable information means that the cluster with its members have access to a lot of different information in the healthcare, as well as connections to the government. So we have the right information on the right time. Support on digital healthcare solutions with the programs that I already said, with the financial instruments and options with the European Union's fundings. There are new actually programs in the new Horizon Europe program period that is focused on clusters and non-government organizations. So they have the opportunity to try to get this funding and then give this funding to the memberships, to the ecosystem, to the members of this cluster, and build different solutions while still merging, like for example, different companies build one solution, and each company has its own know-how, so they gather together and create this synergy to create the overall product. So platform for connections and collaboration, that's another project that is coming up in the cluster. This is one of the idea that cluster has to create its own platform, and this platform should give the opportunity to connect different stakeholders, different companies to add additional value and level to the services we have currently in the healthcare in Bulgaria, to the hospitals, to the universities, and navigating the healthcare system and educate is another service that we have. We currently have active projects with Junior Achievements Bulgaria, which is part of JA Europe and JA Worldwide, which is a non-government organization that have different programs for students from the universities, also with kids from the school. They create the entrepreneurship spirit. They try to make different programs in the universities so that the people from the university start to know about entrepreneurship and the opportunities that they can generate in Bulgaria with investment funds, with different connections within European Union and outside European Union with the United States. Can we go with the next slide? Now, these are some of the DHI cluster members. These are some of the companies that contribute to get these strategic priorities and to go with the vision and the mission. I will not stop at each one because there are more than 20. You can go on the dhicluster.bg website. There is a short introduction of each company there, which can give you an overview of what they are doing. Probably most of you all know the big pharma companies like Novartis, MSD-AbbVie, and Merck. As I said, JA Bulgaria is a non-profit organization. Find Me Cure is an organization that goes with clinical trials. Soft Group is an organization that have the 3D barcodes on the drugs. It's a regulation by the EU. All drugs now has a special barcode. Checkpoint Cardio and Healy Superdoc and Consent to our telemedicine. Skillline, BI, and SatHealth are big data analytics. My Synergy, which I'm also a CEO of, it is a consulting company. A national patient organization with it's another NGO for the patients and which have a hospital information system. On2Text, they do a lot of AI projects as well. I will not go, as I said, further on. You can check them on the website. I just want to share here with you one interesting topic, which is, as I said, Junior Achievements. They have different interesting programs. And one of the programs, it's called, with their child companies, The Edge and Beyond. So The Edge is a business incubator for startups. This is actually a place where young entrepreneurs are trained to grow up their ideas, and then they are moved to the Beyond, which is a pre-accelerator for prototypes. This is a program where there are mentors. I'm mentoring one of them actually in this program. So young people that have a great idea, we are helping them to develop this idea, create an MVP, and find investors to further grow up and start their business.
Thank you. Thank you, Jordan. I think, as I understand, if I could summarize what I'm seeing from the DHI cluster, you are using the strength of Bulgaria and Bulgarian experts in the digital information field, in information technologies. You're bringing a lot of knowledge about the healthcare systems from Europe and from around the world, and you're integrating this together successfully. I would probably think that there is quite a lot of variation in privacy laws around between United States and Europe and Bulgaria, and this is something that we can probably talk more and discuss it, because in my sense, if all this gets addressed properly, I think there is a very high chance of success. And the same idea of having this cluster, I think, is very beneficial, because you have a number of companies and members and you will provide a lot of support and access to all any American company that could that will be interested to come to the Bulgarian market. Is that correct? Just a yes, no.
Yes, of course.
Thank you very much. I think if we can leave the questions for the second part.
Okay. I just had a few slides more, but that's okay.
Oh, you had more slides. I apologize. I thought that, well, let's go quickly over the rest of the slides because...
Yeah, I'll not take much time. I'll just briefly run through them. Just wanted to highlight...
I apologize.
Let me share again.
When I saw all these logos of the companies, I thought that that was the last slide, but everybody has different style of presentation.
Actually, during the presentation, I highlighted the cluster itself, and the rest of the presentation is some of the projects that we're currently building and working on with our company. So I just wanted to briefly run through 2-3 slides just to give you an overview what exactly in the consultancy of the healthcare we are doing. Because we now, as a part of the cluster, my senior our company being a consulting company, we have a lot of projects in the healthcare consulting, which is actually we do have experience in the United States, and that was one of the things that I would like to highlight. That's our company. Next slide, please. I'll just run through them. So,
okay, no problem with the slide.
Next slide.
Is Jordan still on?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead. Your slide's on.
Okay. Because I'm still viewing the first slide. Oh, okay. So just a brief. So my Synergy is a consulting company. It's a digital transformation consultancy that is headquartered in Sofia. And we do assist companies, non-government organizations, and governments in their digital transition efforts and aim to increase efficiency, competitiveness, and accessibility by transitioning business to digital technology. We have a lot of experienced senior consultants and IT architects, and our main focus is providing healthcare consulting, IT services, and digital marketing. Now, I will not go further with can we go to the next slide? Now, I just wanted to highlight some of the previous experience that our team members have, and part of them are of the already US market. Probably all know the Johns Hopkins Hospital, Mayo Clinic, St. Thomas Community Health Center, as well as some of the UK, NHS, Glasgow and Borders, and Ottawa National Hospital in Canada. Can we go to the next slide? Now, I will not go over through all these texts, but I just wanted to highlight you that while doing healthcare optimization, the three products and the 3 projects that couple of projects we are doing, it's operating room redesign and optimization, optimizing surgical inpatient flow, right sizing of medical inpatient units, and hospital process optimization with the process of inpatient taking. So you can see talking in US about healthcare is always about millions. You can further see that presentation when it's sent to you. Kevin, can we go to the next slide? These are just part of our partners that are contributing to our work. Novartis is a global partner, Microsoft and Lenovo also as a global partner, Viva is a global partner. We are Viva certified for the Balkans region here in Europe. So as I said, the DHI cluster, Cancer Care, which is an organization for oncology, junior achievements, and the Association of the Research-Based Pharmaceutical Manufacturers in Bulgaria. And I think that's it. The last slide. Yep, that's it. So you can find me, you can just drop me an email or find me on LinkedIn. It would be great for me to get in touch with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Again, I'll recommend that we leave the questions for later and move to the next speaker, who will be talking about data services. This is Momchil Baroshmitov. He has BA from American University in Bulgaria, Masters of Science from Texas A&M University, and MBA from Clark University. here in the United States, extensive background, and he's currently a director of data services in the Dynamo software. Momchi, please take it from here. Thank you.
Thanks, Krasi. Helen, can you please share the slide deck? Great. So what I'll be talking about is a bit more of a tactical perspective. Everybody was presenting the great opportunities for investing in Bulgaria from a governmental perspective, but I'll talk about what it means to run a department or a division within an organization, and particularly do it cross borders. I myself am based in Boston, and I'm a Bulgarian by origin, but the group that I'm heading is fully based in Bulgaria. So the perspective is from a kind of a mix of software and business process outsourcing. So that's kind of where we're coming from in our company. Next slide, please. So a bit of a background, Dynamo Software, the company that I work for, originally was started in '98 and has grown to a pretty big size, a lot of clients worldwide. Our primary business was and continues to be software for the alternative assets industry, which is a financial, a subdivision within the financial industry. But we have also added some business process outsourcing type services in terms of fund administration, financial data entry for our clients. And we see a lot of growth in that area. So that's the one that I'll be covering. I remember somebody in the questions was asking about opportunities in the IT space. Happy to address anything there as well, but my expertise right now is a little bit more in the from a BPO perspective. So what my division does, which is the next slide, please, Helen, thanks. We assist organizations with the gathering of complex financial data, gathering, enrichment, categorization, and we focus on quality conscious customers in the investments industry. So it's not only a price play, a low cost destination that Bulgaria is, but a lot of our success comes from having very highly educated and skilled and motivated team. So our structure is I myself am based in Boston. We have a co-head that runs the division in Sofia, and after that, team leads and more junior people, analysts based in Bulgaria. So what happens is the key success, like I said, it's not attributed to cost, but to the people and the ability to implement processes and software to help with these tasks. And of course, the reports to support that. Next slide, please, Helen. So let me talk about what we see as the advantages of doing business process outsourcing in Bulgaria. I'll continue to hammer this point: talent, talent, talent. It's very, very important. And I think some of the other panelists mentioned the ability of universities in Bulgaria to produce highly educated people in the areas of engineering, math, finance, languages is a big thing. I myself was a graduate of the first class of the American University in Bulgaria, and my alma mater is fantastic in the ability to bring together the U.S. culture and the Bulgarian culture and educate students in those areas that I mentioned. But there's all kinds of other schools that also produce these types of talented people. There's also a business process outsourcing ecosystem that has developed in Bulgaria, which means that you can hire people who have had experience in that from other organizations. The unpleasant side effect is that they could hire people away from you as well. But it's good to have these because it's a very virtuous cycle. And the final point about talent I'll make is that there's a lot of returnees who used to maybe went to school in the European Union or the US. So they come back and bring a lot of expertise, not only in the subjects they learned, but that cultural, cross-cultural experience, managerial expertise, and so on. As far as the business climate, I think the prior presenters were much better at outlining what's good about that regarding Bulgaria. So I'll skip some of that. Maybe the point about cultural proximity compared to other business process outsourcing destinations is more relevant, especially when dealing with the countries in the European Union. As far as cost is concerned, definitely salaries and benefits are lower than other places, and office overhead, as was mentioned by a prior speaker. Next slide, please. So from a department level perspective, maybe other organizations that are structured in a similar fashion that we are would see the same challenges, such as managing a team across borders. That's pretty difficult. Human resources, recruiting, retention, motivation, etc. That's always a challenge for any organization. And I would say productivity monitoring and growth is a challenge for us, and I assume for everyone else. Now, what is unique to our setup and where we think we have an advantage is that I am Bulgarian. And so that allows me to kind of translate some things that may not be so easy to translate, not purely in terms of language, but in terms of business culture and so on, both from the US to Bulgaria and back. And so that's a key advantage that we have, but also I would say the fact that the team and actually a lot of these people that get educated in Bulgarian universities right now, they're much closer culturally to Western values than, let's say, my generation or the generation of some of the attendees here. It takes a while for some of the post-communist experience to be weeded out of you and to switch to more Western style thinking, present company included. The nice thing about what we do is that the work is in the finance field, which allows for a lot of learning opportunities and some variety. So it's not just mindless data entry. And our company is growing, which is always nice. So it provides promotion opportunities. Now, next slide, please. So on to some lessons learned and maybe advice for some people and organizations who are planning to enter business in Bulgaria, not so much, not specifically in business process automation, but specifically about running a department in even a larger organization. I would say finding the right person to run the operations in Bulgaria is, I cannot emphasize how important that is. That person is driving the culture in the department or the organization, running HR aspects, helping with the translation across borders, across cultures, and so on. Even if I'm here based in the US and able to do some of that translating and culture institution, it is priceless to find the right person. So please, when you're considering opening a business, make sure you make that right choice. In terms of other lessons, I'm going to use an old saying, Ronald Reagan's and I believe Stalin, about trusting but verifying. So it's good to have the proper metrics and to be able to see what's happening in the division and not just take it as you go and roll with the punches. Be able to have key targets and goals. Adapt to what people are to people as much as you're asking them to adapt. If needed, give them certain opportunities for professional development and for exploring interests that they may not otherwise have. And that provides I would say, a release valve, but also a sense of this organization is considerate of me. It's kind of similar to how Google gives you 10% of your time to devote to external projects. I found that to be an interesting and helpful approach. continuous communication. Don't keep people in the dark. Try to be as transparent as possible. Maybe I found that would help you a lot. An interesting observation is that team morale and cohesion in Bulgarian organizations and teams is much higher than what I've observed in the US. It comes with some benefits of them being able to work closer together, but it also comes with some disadvantages because people may, some personal animosities may actually flare up much more than in the US. Assume that everything will be public, even salaries. Bulgarians are great at sharing these things that you may, as an employer, want to keep separately. So Glassdoor will not have a good business model in Bulgaria. The competition for talent is intense. I know that it was presented that Bulgaria produces great talent, but there's a lot of competition for it. So be prepared for that too. Trial periods are your friend. When you hire new people, there's a provision in Bulgarian law that allows them to be on a certain trial basis before they get fully adopted. So that's your chance to figure out if that person will fit. And always have a backup plan, have a backup person, be ready for the unexpected.
Well, so this is wonderful. I really enjoy what you're saying because what I hear is so practical, so focused. It is based on your experience, and I think it's very close to how I see this as well. And I assume all others like us who have taken similar steps have had the same experience.
Thank you. And just a couple of final points. If I'm running short on time, I can certainly skip that. But Bulgaria is a land of extremes. You will find, I'll give you some examples, extreme amounts of initiative and information sharing and so on. And then you'll encounter the opposite, lack of initiative and lack of proactivity and so on. So understanding that and managing that is very important. Admitting guilt or failure is a sign of weakness. In the US, it's a kind of move on and let's learn from it. In Bulgaria, there's always the passive verb that something happened or something was not done. Nobody identified what was not done. Some professionalism is lacking in terms of follow-ups and so on. So expect some interesting behavior, especially in kind of pre-hiring processes. People like predictability in terms of pay. So tying variable compensation to performance is still pretty tricky, and it could be a European thing. I don't know. Yeah. In the US, there's a lot more of that.
This is wonderful.
The final point is people like to accentuate the negative. If a glass is not half empty, it is not barely begun to get empty. I mean, I can't emphasize how interesting that aspect of Bulgarian culture is, and sometimes you'll encounter it in work environments as well. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. We'll leave the questions for a little bit later. This was wonderful, very practical, focus, and I think it was well. Now we'll move to the last two presenters. The first one is Andrei Novakov, who is a member of the European Parliament. He has very long and successful bio, and I think he will be able to introduce the audience to opportunities for accessing European Union through Bulgaria. Andrei?
Hi guys. I can suggest to have a shortened presentation that I've prepared in order to, fit into the schedule. So I would like to start with a few words about what I'm doing in the Parliament. I'm a member in the Budgetary Committee, Budgetary Control, and Regional Development, which is responsible for the disbursement of almost 1/3 of European budget. So what happened since yesterday is that the European Commission, this is easily translated in the US like the government of the Union, presented a package, a recovery plan, which is aiming to recover the economy of the economy of the Union with 750 billion euros. So in total, for the next several years, the union will have about $2 trillion to recover from that crisis. So part of them will come from the financial markets, and part of them are the traditional EU budget formed by the payments of the member states. So we can expect that if there is no second wave of that crisis, in the autumn, we will have an adoption of the next multi-annual financial framework. And from 1st of January 2021, all member states, including Bulgaria, can benefit from the European budget. And that's the biggest in the history of the Union. And for the first time in the history of the Union, the Commission is taking the loan from the international markets, and it will be from out of those 750 billion euros, 500 billion will be for grants. So that will be kind of a funds which has not to be paid back, and 250 billions are loans, low interest and long-term loans, which are going to help the companies to recover. What in terms of Bulgaria means that? So out of that package, Bulgaria will receive about 15 billion euros, and most of them, if that plan is adopted in next month, will be available both for the companies and for the local authorities to recover from the crisis. So it means that Europe is the first continent, and if we can consider the Union like a country, the first country that is going to deliver support to its regions and companies to recover in such a scale. So next slide, please. And the next one. Good. I already mentioned that's the single biggest investment package in the history of the Union, and I'm quite sure it will be one of the biggest in the world. So you can see that the amount forecasted for Bulgaria in US dollars is about 20 billion. So we can imagine it will be quite an aggressive investment program, which is aiming to bring back the economy to rebound from that depression which is at the moment. Next slide, please. So I know that sometimes the Union sounds a bit distant, talking about billions, trillions, and huge investment packages. But the thing is that all that is translated to a local level. So we are taking an example region, you can see on a map, which is the region I know best. Why we picked that example? It's potentially very interesting for investors. It's on the border with Greece and the Republic of North Macedonia, and geographically it's very well presented. It's very good connections to the neighboring countries, and has already a freeway and railway connections, 2 main universities, and you can see all other good positive sides of the region. So we picked it up as well because last few years that region managed to attract about $150 million of EU funding. And I know for all those who are observing now from the US, it sounds a bit strange. Subsidies state support. I know it's not something common in US, but that's, if I may use a car industry language, that's the kind of the turbocharger of the engine of EU economy. So this is what is going to actually, in my forecast, bring the economy, the European economy, if not the first place in the world, to probably top 3. Next slide, please. So, and next one. What will be the the nutshell of the development of the region in the context of what has been just mentioned about the EU support to Bulgaria to recover from the COVID crisis? Of course, technomics. That will be the biggest, I would say, would be the biggest challenge and the focus that the local authorities should have. Why? Because there are 3 major universities in the city, in the capital of that region. So there is high-skilled, well-educated professionals who are able to deliver an added value to that economy. Next slide, please. As you can see, there is a tradition in the region about exporting and producing goods, and some of them, of course not all of them, but has a quite specific way of production with a high added value, which is making the region very, very attractive. And it was given as an example of an investments for the last several years, foreign investments as well, some of them American. And here I'm opening the brackets. The only American university in the Balkans, it's located exactly there in Blagoevgrad, which is making quite a strong and an emotional connections between the states and the region. There is plenty of American students, not only American, but from across the globe. And I'm sure it's helping the environment to attract American investments. Next slide, please. Why the second biggest challenge, it will be electric vehicles. It has been mentioned, I think, by Stamen Yanev, who is the CEO of Invest agency, that our country developed a quite specialized industry when it comes to automotive industry, and one of the biggest producers of batteries for electric vehicles is located in Bulgaria. So some of the schools, high schools in that region, created kind of a classes to develop an experts on that field, and there will be a massive support from the union helping such productions. You probably heard about the Green Deal. That is the one of the biggest investment packages in terms of CO2 neutral economy, and it's going to be implemented quite soon. So that region, Blagoevgrad, is already preparing for that change. For that, I would say that will be probably the Industrial Revolution 4.0 in terms of ecology. And I think at the moment, automotive industry is creating about 20% of the GDP of the country, and it's providing jobs for almost 250,000 people. Next slide, please. So, and the next one. Yes, there, let's say, quite probable elections coming to that region with a promising candidates who are shaping a future of a new generation, exactly focusing on attracting investments. And on a national scale, we already have very attractive services and conditions, such as 10% flat rate taxes, corporate taxes to the companies, and the local authorities are already developing even better environment with proposing a good properties with already developed infrastructure, which is helping the investors quickly to develop their businesses and open jobs and create profit. Next one, please.
I think the last speaker, Borislav Slavchov, will go deeper into more practical approach of this. So if you'd like maybe to wrap up this section, and then we can give Borislav Slavchov the opportunity to go further on the subject.
Sure. So if I can wrap up, we can say that in the quite a recent future, we will receive a significant support coming from the European Union budget, from the recovery plan, which is the European Commission proposing, and that will boost the economy, which is making quite an attractive place to investments, including from US investors. As has been mentioned, we are on the, I think US is in top 5 investors in Bulgaria. And I think the moment to consider investments in our country is coming in the context of such a huge support to the economy coming from the Union. Thank you very much.
Thank you. This is excellent. Appreciate it. Last but not least, our speaker is Borislav Slavchov, the president of ABC Innovations. And I think Borislav will bring this to discussion to a very practical level and ways all this could happen. It could be implemented. He's well connected with the Bulgarian business and also with the government infrastructures and with all the speakers who presented today. So let's go to Borislav Slavchov, and then we will have a few minutes left for discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Krasi. Thanks to all speakers for great speech, and a lot of useful information about Bulgaria was given before me. And I will try to be very short. Helen, please, to see the presentation. I will try to be very focused on EU funding opportunities, but not, I think, said a lot of, in general, about why Bulgarian is attractive for all companies interested of getting EU fundings. The focus of my presentation is about how Bulgaria could be gate for access of EU funding opportunities, but in the specific area of research and innovations. We believe that this is the main instrument companies in Bulgaria here in partnership with US companies in a way to develop together and to access to EU market and the global world market through innovation and through partnership between research organizations, universities, and business. In general, very shortly, I will make a focus about the opportunities. We can say that there are two to get funding for innovations and research projects. One way is the big European Framework Program for Research Innovations. That program was already mentioned from the previous speakers, Horizon Europe. And another one is through Bulgarian government. There are many different operational programs in Bulgaria, and part of them are related with the projects for innovations and improving the competitiveness of the business. For both of the programs, American companies could be subcontractors and partners for Bulgarian business, and by this way to access to EU and to global market. Next slide, Helen. So the ambitions of Horizon Europe is related to improve the funding for research innovations. For the next program period, the proposal is more than 100 billion euro for research innovations. This is separate of all these billions that already Andre mentioned before me. And this is money only for innovations, only for new technology projects. In the goal of this, all this money that planned to be invested and universities are to strengthen EU scientific and technological, to boost Europeans' innovation capacity, and to deliver to the citizens' priorities and sustainable to socioeconomic model and values. The idea of Horizon Europe and to support disruptive ideas, innovative technologies, and to be competitive to global market. Next slide, Helen. But next slide, please. And the ideas, the objectives of Horizon is to, no, please, before that. Previous slide, yes. The idea of the Horizon is to support different areas of the business to be competitive, European business to be competitive on the world. But American companies are welcome to be partners in this process. And very shortly, I want just to summarize all these many opportunities, because all these 100 billion euro will be shared in different topics in different calls. But I want to focus in 3 of them. The first one, from the first pillar, Open Science, European Research Council, is focused on support for private researchers, professors, PhD students, including American. This program is open for any researcher from any part, including American citizens, to apply to get funding to come and to make their researches and innovation in Bulgarian, especially Bulgarian, and in general in European universities and companies. The focus is in that to create their innovation together with European partners and to market the results from this innovation in Europe itself. For example, some researcher, PhD students or professor from American university could apply and get like 2 or 3 million euro for 2 or 3 years project in Bulgaria, in partnership with technical university, with another university in Bulgaria, with support from the business, and to create some high-level researches in his area with application to European and global market. Another pillar that there are plenty of opportunities of that different topics related with global challenges and industrial competitiveness, especially health area, as Jordan already mentioned, is one of the priorities of Horizon Europe. And I want to focus on this topic because this is the only area that American companies, American universities are eligible applicants, because there is a bilateral agreement between Europe and US, especially for this area, and the joint projects could be very easily developed in this area. And the third one topic that I want to focus is European Innovation Council. Helen, the next one slide, please. European Innovation Council, I want to focus on this program, part of the biggest program Horizon, because this is the instrument for the business, especially from small and medium enterprises. This is a program for support of innovations for higher level of technical readiness, almost ready for the market to be developed and implemented in the business, innovative product, innovative services with big market potential. And many innovators could get funding, for example, at least 2 or 5 million euro. It depends on the specific call, but enough funding to create innovative technology, innovative products. And the focus of this program is to support these enterprises and these companies that develop high risk innovation, disruptive innovation that usually more difficult could be financed from the banks or investment funds. And this is the advantages that give many opportunities for any innovators, any companies in US with already patented products or with big ideas or already developed high level innovations. This program could be realized in 2 groups of grants. One group is Pathfinder for early technology and pre-commercial level, for lower technology level projects. Here is also universities are welcome to participate, to partner with this kind of projects. Another grants are accelerator. This grants support especially scale-up startups, company who want to grow fast, creating high risk and disruptive innovative products or services, and they could get support by this accelerator. For example, this is the program that support even startups or very small micro enterprises to get 2.5 million euro only by proving that they have big potential to create a very disruptive and with high market potential product. Next slide, Helen.
Bobby, do you think we could
I'm going
in the next 3-4 minutes, so we could listen?
I want to finish like only 2 slides, Krasi. So this is about Horizon. Here on this slide, you can see that there are also plenty of Bulgarian programs operated with the Bulgarian government. I don't want to go in details now because it's a huge topic, but you can see that many different opportunities also by these operational programs. This is the money, part of this money that Andrei already said that Europe gives to Bulgaria to spend for development, including this money for reconstruction after COVID-19. And all this money will go to these programs, and Bulgarian companies with American partners could get funding from that. Next slide, Helen. So why American companies should go for EU innovations and why they should do it through Bulgaria? I don't want to go in details now because speakers before me said a lot about that. Why Bulgaria is the place for doing business and what Bulgaria is place for doing research and innovations. But one of the advantages that I want to mention is that Bulgaria, compared with, for example, Germany, Spain, or other European countries, is better for access to Horizon because Bulgarian enterprises from one side are very open to make business. Andrei said about this, and Momchi also explained very in details about our specific culture, and that helps very easy to start making business with Bulgarians, making new innovation projects. And from another side, Bulgarian enterprises still don't have this capacity to do this by themselves. And because of that, they are very open for finding partners, for example, American companies or American researcher, and to transfer technology from United States or to create joint innovation and to apply for funding and to share the profit for this joint project together. I think this is enough good reason American companies to focus to Bulgaria to get access to EU funding for innovations. Next slide, Helen. And what is the model actually? how one U.S. organization could get funding from all these opportunities. The first step is to identify specific innovation, to have already developed IP, already made some researches. This could be R&D companies producing different innovative products or technologies. This could be university. This could be some technology company. And if they want to expand to European market, they could start searching partnership and connection to get this EU funding. This is the next step, to make connection and partnership with Bulgarian organization, because as I already mentioned, US company are not eligible direct beneficiary from all these funds, but Bulgarian organization could apply for the funding with the support, with the expertise, with the knowledge from US company, with the technology from US, and together they could go for the next step, development of the project proposal. After that, together implement the project, and American partner could be subcontractor or external, if this is physical body, could be external expert in implementation of the process. And after that, American and Bulgarian company could go together to the market and multiplicate this innovation created with EU support. Next slide, Helen. This is shortly the steps of the process. And of course, you are ready. You are welcome for any additional questions and requests for support in this area. We can ask now, but also you can contact with me or another people from our team. We have two teams of our company, one team in Boston, one team in Sofia, and you could contact with us and we can go more in details for all opportunities for
Thank you.
EU, how they can be used. Thank you.
Thank you, Bobby. I think we got a lot of information today from this wonderful set of speakers, and I learned a lot, and I hope the rest of the audience learn a lot. I think we have a question. We have time for several quick questions, and I think the majority of questions probably will remain to be answered after this meeting officially concludes, because the way we structure this, we had maybe too many speakers, if you wish, and I think that was probably a matter of balance, and I think in this initial engagement that could have been a good strategy. But as in all cases like this, what is important is what happens after the meeting. If this was just 2 hours of enjoying learning something new, or it is something, some steps which will follow, and at the end of the day, we want to create businesses to facilitate interactions and to have fun, to be successful and have a lot of fun during the process. So any questions from the audience? Anything that, burning questions that you'd like to ask right now?
You can unmute yourself and ask your question, but we have a first question for Mr. Novakov. The question is, there a strategy for distribution of those funds to small businesses in Bulgaria? If yes, what is it? So Andre, this is for you in terms of the funds for small businesses in Bulgaria. Did you hear the question?
Andre, please unmute yourself. Well, let's go through the other.
Maybe I can try to answer instead of Andre very shortly. If the question is about the money for
small businesses
recovery from EU, of course the answer is yes. Even few weeks ago there was one program for giving money for small enterprises. It's coming another program for giving, again, like 50,000 euro support for, again, small and medium enterprises. The focus of Europe is to support small business, and the answer is yes.
Okay. Here's another question from Sylvester Cidi. His question is there any clear-cut opportunities for those of us in Africa who may be interested in investing in Bulgaria? How is the connection between the Bulgarian and the African market? So anyone can answer that. Does anybody have?
Does anybody have a good answer?
Right. So I can maybe take this one.
Me as a person who is here on the ground, we are open economy, so everyone is more than welcome to invest in Bulgaria. And Invest Bulgaria agency is the starting point, I would say, where we could, and also our friends and colleagues who are speaking today, but we're trying to concentrate all the necessary information for a potential investment here, and to suggest place or ways to execute potential investment. Helen, do you think that we could try to run the video at the end, or?
Yeah, I'll try. If not, I'll try to edit it inside the actual.
Otherwise, I can share my screen and try to run it.
Okay. So let me just answer that question too, just because it's something we're working on. So Sylvester, in regards to your question, I don't personally know directly of any Africa to Bulgaria projects, but one of the initiatives we were working on with ABC Innovations and with the embassy was bringing university to university collaborations in response to Horizon Europe and Horizon 2020 research projects. So that's one way, taking university collaborations or needs and then collaborating with Bulgarian institutions. So I think in the future, you'll probably hear more about projects that come out of that. But like Stamen said, you can always start with the investment agency if there is a direct interest in investing in Bulgaria. And all of these other entities that are on this call, from DHI Health Cluster to Mochi and everyone else, is I think very open to collaboration in one way or another. So hopefully that answers your question. And then if we could take 2 more questions, and then we'll try to run the video, and then we'll just wrap up because we're already a little bit over our time. Another question that is being asked is, can you go more into details as it relates to medical tourism opportunities, specifically from a technological view? Is medical tourism already in play? And if so, and what partnerships do you have already established in the US already? Ivo, you talked about this, so maybe you can touch on it.
Yes, I just threw some ideas there already, but DHI would be a better interlocutor. I just wanted to say that we are perfect for clinical trials, everything clinical trial related. We do physical medical tourism and digital medical tourism, potentially in dental and light medicine, especially aesthetic surgery, at a fraction of the cost. And the third area is telemedicine. For example, there is a project for remote diagnostics and monitoring of cardiovascular diseases out of a tech center in Bulgaria, again at a fraction of the cost in real time. And I have listed some of the partners. The DHI cluster would probably be the best one. And the largest multinational company in Central and Eastern Europe for clinical trials and lab outsourcing is a Bulgarian company called Comac. Comac Medical, just Google them. That's my answer.
Great. Jordan, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I think he covered everything. And also on our website where the cluster is, just make sure you get the short review of each company so that you can get a better vision of what exactly they're doing, since we have more than 30 so far.
Okay, great. And the last question is, do you think Bulgaria is a good place for development of robotics and automation? Who would like to take that?
I would say me, but Krasi was the business development executive of a major robotics manufacturer. So it's between me and Krasi about this. Robotics and automation are our first love. Isn't that so, Krasi?
That is correct. So I had the pleasure of working for a robotics and automation company here in Massachusetts, which has also manufacturing in Bulgaria. And we have been very heavily involved in design of semiconductor robots, working with big American companies like Teradyne and Brooks Automation, as well as supporting companies overseas. So traditionally, Bulgaria from the old Comecom times has specialized in robotics and in automation, and this is what continues right now. And the Technical University of Sofia is a very good place, both in Sofia and also in their division in Plovdiv. So please talk to me, and I will be glad to engage and facilitate further discussions. Thank you.
Great. I think that's the only questions we have. We do have a few more, but we're running out of time. So Professor Krasi, if you can wrap up, and then I'll follow behind around what our next steps are.
Well, I would like to thank first all participants, to thank all the presenters, and I would like to thank Helen for putting all this together and bringing so many people on board. As I noted earlier, this is just the beginning. It was a way of sharing information, of making connections, and what really matters are the next step and the final result. So let's stay in touch. We'll share all the information, and let's move the next steps, take the next steps together. Thank you.
Right. So just to wrap up, I want to first thank all our speakers. Thank you, Ivo. You've been such a great supporter of everything we've done here and continue to do. And I thank you for introducing us to ABC Innovations. They've been an excellent partner in everything that we've done thus far, both locally and globally. Thank you, Krasi and Borislav, and your team over at ABC Innovations for being great promoters of this event just as well. I also want to say thanks, Stamin. We'll try your video one last time before we wrap, but I will definitely get everyone the access to the video, and we'll try to edit it inside the recording so everyone has it. Thank you, Professor Ivan Kralov, for that insightful conversation around what the universities have to offer. And I know a lot of universities are already engaged and ready to engage with you in your universities. Thank you, Andre, and your team has been excellent in helping us get all of this put together and prepared. I think the information you've provided us thus far is really helpful for anyone who's not aware of what the EU Parliament is planning and how Bulgaria fits into that bigger piece. Thank you so much, Monchil. I think it was really helpful, at least even for me, just understanding from a departmental, and especially those like lessons learned and small helpful things around what to do. Thank you, Jordan, lastly, for that insightful. I think healthcare is such an important and critical stuff. We can see COVID-19 has really brought healthcare to the forefront, and being able to take technology with it is really helpful. So thank you for giving us more of an idea of what your company does, as well as the cluster overall. So thank you to all our speakers. We appreciate the time and even staying a little bit longer. To everyone who was in the audience, thank you again for registering, for showing up. We actually had 180 registered attendees today, and I think at the best we were at 90 people who actually showed up onto the call. That's really showing. If you have any questions after, please follow up with us. We'll be able to help work with ABC Innovations in getting you into the market or partnering with anyone that's on this call or others. We'll send you a copy of everyone's presentation. We'll send you a copy of the recording, and we will send you a post-webinar survey so we can learn a little bit more about what you were interested in hearing, how helpful it was, but also if there's additional questions that you were not able to get answered today, then we'll directly send it to the speakers. So thank you, everyone, and have a great rest of your afternoon or evening, wherever you may be, and stay safe and healthy. Till the next time. Thank you all.
Thank you, Helen. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Helen. Thanks, everyone.
All right.